Game 1 already delivering in a best of 5. LPL final is always so much fun, but I did not expect QG to win Game 1.
Not this handily, to say the least. And the early game, of course, it still looks so great for LGD. The laning phase of Imp in particular, getting him that far ahead. And to think it all just crumbled almost immediately with the first team fight.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be some disappointed members of LGD right now because they overreached so hard early game. There was no reason for them to, I guess, go as aggressive as what they did. So we'll have to see if that's something that they stylistically adapt to. They got the lane swap. They were able to, you know, even though some farm went on V, they had to use the teleport to ensure that the farm went onto V. And then top lane, they lost the 2v2 because that farm that went onto V, hey, it wasn't on TNT. So he was able to get beaten out in lane quite handily. So, you know, that is how we kind of expected the game to go, with the exception that we thought the turnaround was going to come at like the 25-30 minute mark when they were able to find those scrappy team fights. What surprised me is that LGD was willing to accelerate the pace of the game, that those team fights occurred at 13 minutes, because that's QG's win condition.
Yeah, and that's so smart. It's, you know, you're trying to accelerate the game. You don't want to sit in a lane swap having Acorn run around like 10 minion waves in the side lanes. Just try and fight them. That's exactly what they did. And for me, the big mid-game linchpin there, if we're waiting for his Cogman to get stronger and he's had a great lane, where was Godvy's Orianna this game?
He missed the shockwave.
He changed his build. I'm calling it right now. He did. His base movement speed wasn't as high. He was like, I can't deal with this.
Can't rotate in time. Of course, the teleport, I think one of the bigger determining factors. He had the ghost to move fast anyway, so he was going everywhere. Distort that ghost. In saying that, again, the teleport was there. The teleport into a better position for team fights. It's something that you mentioned during the game is the teleport not necessary. If they kite up the river, Godby was still going to be there. The shockwave may have missed in that particular case, but the fact that you can get to your AD carry and you can use your wild growth to keep them alive or use the wild growth offensively because you're next to your AD carry to keep him alive anyway was a big factor as to where Godby was, and that was not there.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, you got to have a look at Godby. Once again, he had a CS advantage, but the fact that it was only 20, and even though they got the early gank, Doinby was just able to teleport back into the lane, means that time and time again, the Lulu was able to tweak the way that team fights were going, getting useful shields, getting big wild growths, the double knockups, bouncy castles. And when he survived that gank, you could just tell that maybe something had gone a little bit awry for Godby, because after that, he looked slightly miffed, maybe a little bit edgy in the way he was playing his Orianna.
I think it's safe to say he was a little bit miffed by it all.
Yeah.
Should have died more than once.
Yeah.
In fact, Doinby in that middle lane. But it's the tanky build. It was the health crystal that we questioned is, how's he going to live? Well,
yep, there it is.
that tilted me, let alone Godby, who had delayed against the guy. It's just not what you're used to seeing out of a Lulu player. But once again, Doinby, he is next level smart, man. We talk about people that have innovated mid lane and bringing things like Diana, Orianna back into the meta and give Godby a lot of credit. Doinby plays Nautilus and Lulu with a tank item, so, you know.
I think the trade-off actually between these two mid laners and why I said no one can replace Doinby and Qiao is the fact that he is smart. He's probably the smartest mid laner in the LPL. The rest have a lot of mechanical skill. They are leaps and bounds above everybody else almost in the world. But because he's so smart, because he can actually play that Nautilus, make it work, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, you know, it just comes down to the fact that he gets behind 20 CS, but is still more useful than Godby. And we question Godby's performance. So hats off to Doinby game one. Whilst TNT was running around the map slaughtering people, he was certainly doing more than his job in the middle lane, tying down one of the better Chinese mid laners, probably the best Chinese mid laner at the moment. And, yeah, just doing a really solid job.
Yeah, and again, that's what we expect from this team. Have things go well. If they don't, okay, that's fine. Chill out. Get to the mid-game. Get to the late game. Start team fighting. Like you said, LGD just handed them a couple of team fights, and that's where they want to be. I think drafting, honestly, was really smart from both teams. But we kind of go into that game. I think you feel that LGD has a lead going into it on draft, but what QG did with their picks and how they put that draft together two up working out really well for them.
LGD won the draft. LGD lost the game at 12 minutes when they picked two team fights. Like 100% with the way that game was going, you put 50 CS on an AD carry at 15 minutes into the game. Like the only reason that there was even a Vayne on the map is because he got delivered 4 kills. Yeah. Like Acorn walked up to him, was like, how you doing, buddy? Like, have a couple of kills. Like, on me, you know, don't worry about it. Like, Imp was completely destroying TNT on that in that laning phase. Like, if you break that game down, like, they won the lane swap. This is LGD. They were winning mid lane because they burnt the teleport early. the only person that had a lead was V, and he was the one that actually surprised me. V was really useful on that Maokai and pinning down key targets, and V and Swift's frontline play was just amazing to watch. They out frontlined TBQ and Acorn in that game really hard. Like, you can break it down to mid laners, but V's performance was great.
But that in particular was also the biggest factor as to why these team fights went so well, because TNT can just sit at the back and take down Nah, a champion that has so much magic resistance, hasn't opted towards that armor to deal with TNT, but he's also the one hitting the Nah TNT, taking him down, and the front line is sitting there in the face of them and preventing that from actually getting onto TNT. So he stays alive from this front line, kills the tanks, and wins himself.
Well, you can see some of the highlights now from the game. There were quite a lot of them towards the top and bottom of the game, but like we've said, QG's team fighting almost flawless this game.
Yeah, and look at that. They go a little bit too early. No Meganar coming out. They'd already burned the shockwave onto no people at the start of this fight. That's why Vayne was going berserk.
And the way TNT played around now, this fight in particular, just watch how he literally dodges around Acorn.
Yeah, he actually plays the fight superbly. TCT, the real hero of this fight here, but in saying that...
How did he live for so long?
Unbreakable, man. It's a pretty good spell.
And Marco ult, I guess. Yeah, that's
helps.
funny. It certainly does.
But I mean, Xiaogu, the front line you're looking at right now, Swift and V, look at where they are and look at what Imp has to hit. Like, there's no way, especially with a wild growth available, that anyone can get to the back line. And even if they do, Doinby's there.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. The positioning of V and Swift in that last team fight just show how well QG were playing, because they had Brom on the backline with Unbreakable, keeping the Vayne safe. Everyone else up in front of the Cogmore, strangling him, making sure that they're in his zone and he can only hit the tanky members, which he did not want to do at that stage of the game. 9,000 gold means your tanks are absolutely massive, and you could see TNT just shredded everyone on the side of LGD.
And even Cogmore, the best tank shredder in the game, with having that W and the Blade of the Ruin King in effect, cannot take them down quick enough.
Well, that was the fun thing about that fight, is they engaged at the perfect time, because they had to use the W at trying burning down Baron.
Yeah.
And when V went in, it was actually as soon as the W had ran off. And that's why it looked like Imp was doing no damage at the start of the fight, because he was just sitting there spitting at them at like 525 range.
Yeah, it was actually very well played. And V, even waiting in the Baron pit, seemingly just sitting there to tank the Baron.
He wasn't taking any damage, man. That guy was
at least
huge tree.
Yeah, no, it was smart of them to wait around these summoner spells. The shot calling of Xiaogu seems to be coming through quite strong in this particular first game, but we'll see if that can continue. And we mentioned earlier, what do you think they should change? The drafting was fine. I think the change is decision-making.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's LGD need to go back to playing the map. Stop playing against an opponent. We talk about them in terms of like forcing people to play their style of game. So get the counter ganks going, push up your lanes, get all three lanes pushing at the same time, wait for the counter gank, make sure TBQ is nice and safe, doesn't have to initiate anything himself. So definitely think that's where they go from there, and try and play a similar composition, because honestly, you can attribute a lot of that. Like, losing a game like that is actually relatively easy. And the reason I'm going to say that is because if you're QG, you're like, wow, we were behind and then got two really good team fights and we dragged ourselves back into it. That's how we win games. LGD, on the other hand, just go, we're never team fighting them again. Pack it up, boys. Like, we are making them play around the map 100%.
And that was something I was going to consider as well, is LGD can slow the game down. Xiaogu looked like they didn't have an answer when the game was slowed down, so might be a good idea.
I actually like that you pointed that out, especially because LGD get first dragon, like, I think it's like 70% of games roughly. So the fact that they're able to rely on getting first dragon, especially on the blue side, red side of the map, not the blue side, when they swap to the top lane. So if they're able to do that, that means that QG can never tempo the game by saying, okay, you have to fight us on the third, fourth, fifth dragon, because LGD are like, well, it's going to be 50 minutes into the game anyway. If it goes that late, we're probably lost already, because they're just so good at team fighting.
And all that sort of culminates into what was the game plan there coming into the series? Has to be kill Imp. Imp had a great game. He was insanely far ahead. And again, that front line, they had one job. Malco was a pick that you, Rusty, thought was going to be quite essential to this series. And even after just one game, I think we can see why.
So that's the big thing, though, is that they actually just let both teams have what they want. So V gets his Maokai, and that's big because he actually does a lot of work with that champion. Can hard carry on a tank. And it plays to their team comp really well, in that he can be that unkillable front line and deal with the carries. They just focus God V down. And there's no way V's going to die to God V at all, because he's a Maokai that can just press that R key and be invincible, essentially. So in terms of drafting, it was still good from LGD. They actually gave them what they wanted, but they also gave Xiaogu what they wanted And that is a very linear style that they can then pick perfectly towards and execute.
Oh, 100%. And I think that, once again, the thing that we have to keep throwing in QG's credit is that you can present opportunities to teams, but they will take every single one. As soon as they get a whiff of a one-team fight, they will be able to really punish you. You can see that they're happy to chase with things like Vayne with the Lulu on it solo to pick up the extra kill to make sure that they're exerting pressure around the map. So I think that the Maokai only makes that easier to execute upon because of the oodles of CC and the ability to reduce a lot of damage, especially if Godvi wants to play things like Diana. And Godvi was target banned this game. You got to remember Yasuo and Diana both scrubbed off the board, and very happy to make him play control mages yet again.
Because, again, he can't be proactive. That's the problem. Like, you can play well on a champion like Orianna, but you have to hit every opportunity you get, and you're mostly playing reactively, whereas Godvi is a player that does play very proactively. He needs to be almost a second threat there with Imp. And all of a sudden, again, that front line diving into either Imp in the start or Godvi in the late stages, and one of them's dead. Your two-threat comp's going to fall apart pretty quickly.
And it's funny that you say that as well, because the drafting of LGD put the Orianna as almost the zone-control defensive style of Orianna, which you said it isn't a style that Godvi wants to play in particular because he's much more proactive. And he was trying to play proactively. He was getting engaged on by the Gragas, and that's when he was dying.
And this is why I want to go back to the item build, because that's not Godvi's item build. He normally goes Luden's Echo, and a lot of the spells that he was hitting at the start of the game, if he had Luden's, would have deleted people off the map, especially that one team fight when he was able to grab 3. Doinby dies in that situation. Doinby actually lived a shockwave off Godvi, which if you go back and watch last series when Godvi was catching people with shockwaves, they were just completely obliterated. So, you know, I like the pick. I really like his Orianna. I think he's a good Orianna. I think that he needs to play it in that aggressive fashion because he is that zoning, very up in your face. He's not appealing Orianna. He never has been.
No. Yeah. I feel just in general, like you said, LGD just let QG play a little too much of their game. It's just like, again, they're happy to chill out and take team fights where they're appropriate. And that's just fine. Like, LGD are a team that, again, get advantages and bury people in them. QG are like, we'll play from behind if we have to, but if we're ahead, sounds great.
Yeah, well, that's what happened is LGD did try and play tempo when they slowed it down. They stole a blue buff away when Dragon was happening, but QG were like, well, you still gave us a 3,000 gold lead. Like, you can't slow the game down now. We're ahead. Like, straight away, they push into the jungle, then just sit on Baron because, if you're a Chinese team, you fight around Baron quite a lot. So QG definitely had the better of that objective.
And that raises the question, of course, do they want to control the tempo from the very beginning and not accelerate the game themselves? They had the scaling champions to let the game go, but they kind of threw it away to the point where when they tried to slow it down, control the tempo, control the map, it was already almost too far gone to the point where Xiaogu could use those flash engages.
Especially with double teleport. They slowed the game down and QG just waited for teleports to become back available. We're able to get fights time and time again. So, you know, QG, the double teleport thing, I think, is actually the one thing that LGD will take away from this game and be like, that worked incredibly well against us, and we need to figure out a way to not have that. I thought Rek'Sai was going to be a good answer to it in the late game, but TBQ didn't have a fantastic performance on the Rek'Sai, so maybe get him once again on something like the Lee Sin, see if he can be aggressive early on.
It's funny, the adaptation, though, from Xiaogu was to put Lulu with the Maokai. And just push 1v2 against the Nut and take things down because then there is no Rek'Sai to answer and he has to be with the rest of the team.
And because Braum's Unbreakable lasts for roughly the same amount of time as what a teleport channel will come through. If you don't get over the Unbreakable and kill Vayne from behind, there's not any way that you can really win that team fight.
Yes, so strong stuff there in general for Xiaogu. As you do see, they take game number 1, 10,000 gold or so ahead by the end of it, and 19-6 in kills. It was just those team fights, really. LGD, they found their opening in the first 10 minutes, but as soon as QG could strike, they did. And Swift, a very well-deserved MVP game 1.
Very deserving of that. The counter ganks that we saw from him in the early game was what gave the team the entire game in and of itself. It was really well done from Swift.
And I want to see, this is what won them the game as far as I'm concerned. Oh, no, so that was the first one. It was actually the second one where he was able to do the same thing, but he had ultimate at that stage, and he shoves him underneath the turret.
It's Swift cam, by the way, so we get to watch the man in action once again.
Yeah, and it was really well played from Swift. The fact that Doinby lived the first time, the fact that Doinby lives the second time, it's all on the back of Swift on this Gragas being there so very aptly timed.
That is some sweet tab spamming, by the way, there from Swift. Clearly checking the KDA, making sure he saved Doinby's life again. You know Swift is never letting Doinby forget that. Man, you remember You got ganked, I saved you.
Yeah, why are you texting my wave? You remember the last game when I saved your life twice? That would be so frustrating if you got me. I'm just watching it back again. And
Oh, yeah.
Where are my
to
kills?
watch a Lulu live on sub couple of hundred health 2 times.
Looking at that ghost being like, you don't do any damage.
Yeah,
what
what are you?
Why did I not have Ignite is the better question to ask then in that respect. But it's enough to break a man, to say the least.
You're a mid lane player. I can't believe you can watch that without shedding a tear.
It's painful, but it's a control mage matchup, right? You're never actually expecting to kill anyone.
Hey, if you blow 3 ultimates, you're expecting to kill the enemy mid laner.
But if you've ghosted towards them, you've flashed to auto-attack them, and they still don't die, you start to sweat.
Yeah.
You start to worry.
Especially with 3 knockups in there. But once again, that's just credit to Doinby for swapping up the item builds. If he has Morel and Omicron, which is what every Lulu apart from Doinby would have probably built in that situation, you're dead. But he went with the Scaling Rod of Ages purchase and kept him alive twice.
Yeah.
And again, QG, smart decisions, smart team fighting. That's what we expect from them here. But LGD, they've been in this position before. They've played plenty of series, even against QG. The last record in best of 5s between the two was 3-1, so history would indicate that LGD are looking good in games 2, 3, and 4. But anything can happen. It's only one best of 5. QG start the series off well for themselves, but LGD, they'll bounce right back. And I wonder how the drafting changes. Because, again, I look at Cogmore. I look at how well Imp played. I'm thinking before the series, what are you doing? Don't give him this champion. And they managed to beat it. It took a lot, but they did manage to beat it.
I think the fact that they did beat it speaks volumes for how they're going to play from here on out. Perhaps LGD, they'll still prefer the Cogmore. They'll still want to prioritize that pick, but then maybe they won't be as confident in doing so because it shows that Xiaogu have the ways to beat it.
Yeah, look, it's a potential, and, you know, the other potential is that Imp's a fantastic Sivir player, and that went through there, and he just plays a lane bully, something like the Sivir that can get up in their faces. I still think they'll stick with the Cogmore. If anything, I think they'll swap over to a Twitch. They just didn't want to do it with the Braum.
Yeah.
As soon as you see a Braum, you kind of put the Twitch back in your
fair,
pocket.
Imp's
done
does
it
it
before,
anyway.
yeah.
So
No, I will accept that as justification, just Imp things, but Braum kind of stops the rat-a-tat-tat damage in the latest part of the game especially, but if this continues to be a lane swap game especially, I expect the Twitch to move up in priority.
It's the LGD. It's like the only team that can actually get away with the Twitch really successfully. In fact, Xiaogu have tried to play it once. They lost with it. And the one time that we've seen Imp lose with that Twitch was against the Braum. So just Imp thinks he may have picked it. Doesn't mean that it's good. And they do need to actually look at their drafting phase, last pick that Twitch potentially, before they actually go for that.
And if it stays control mages, you can definitely last pick an AD carry. No reason to not be able to last rotation at least, and that's what Xiaogu did that game.
Well, Don be looking pretty happy there after that game number 1, and I would be too, given that our upper game against LGD here in the grand finals of the LPL summer. Seems like we might be lining ourselves back up into game, and a series that certainly could have looked one-sided given LGD's run to this final. So Xiaogu just winning game 1 is a huge boost for them as far as momentum and confidence goes. And remember, they want to prove you knocked off EDG, they were the #1 team. Okay, don't forget, guys, we're number 2.
Well, I think, like, even you look at the run into this final right now is the fact that LGD played 11 games before coming into this. Xiaogu only played 5, and that was in 1 series. So they got put to the wire, and they are new to the best of 5 series. LGD very, very experienced, even from just this split alone. So moving into this second game, you don't expect LGD to really be in a bad position mentally. They should still be perfectly fine, and we should reset. And this time, they get the first one.
Yeah, we've got nice experienced players, plenty of morale and leadership behind this team. PYL, he's been in tough spots before. Remember, he's been playing for a surprisingly long amount of time. One of the players that's, unless you followed China closely for the last few years, might have slipped under your radar, but certainly proved how good he is this year. He's already at Worlds. That's a great step for him and his squad, who look fearsome towards the end of this season. But PYL wants to win. He wants to win very badly, and there's no title quite like the domestic title, I feel like.
Home pride is certainly a huge thing, especially for such a massive league with a huge following like the LPL. So PYL wants it so badly today. That man on your screen would also like to win more things.
He's already won.
He's got a trophy house, I think,
Korean
somewhere.
national. He's the defending world champion. He'd love to add LPL champion there as well.
First world champion that can go back and defend his title as well. Imp adds more to his accolades as he continues to evolve as a AD carry player. But Xiaogu right now in the driving seat, I think that blue side wins are super important for this team because, you know, if they are going to win a best of 3, they need to win 3 times on blue or at least sneak a red side victory in there somewhere. So the fact that they've started on the right foot, definitely a good thing for this team.
Definitely is for best of 5 series in particular to be able to start on blue and to be able to get that first victory. You mentioned it yourself, is that it actually is leaps and bounds in terms of blue side win rates that Xiaogu are pretty good at doing.
They love that blue side.
Right now, the whole world is really good at blue side.
Yeah. I would love to see the win rate of every
major region.
Yeah, every region and their blue side win rate. But since the latest patches, it does feel like it's a massive deal. And one of the bigger factors is for Xiaogu, their style as a team, Baron control because of the terrain advantage, where you have lane swaps from LGD. So Dragon's always up in the air depending on who does the lane swap. In this particular game, LGD put the lane swap into effect. This gives not only the control of the Dragon now to Xiaogu because they've got extra members bottom, they naturally get control of the Baron area later on from the terrain.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's a couple of things that you have to go with. A, because Assassins are no longer seeing huge play in the mid lane. It's not as snowbally, and with control mages, the game generally gets to a point where Baron is more of a control. That's why blue win rate fluctuates so much, because at the start of the game, especially on very old patches when you had an assassin, you just controlled the dragon area so well from red side, so you had the counter pick as well as the dragon control. Right now, because it is a little bit more scaling, the Baron becomes much more relevant because the game time is around the 38-minute mark right now.
Well, coaches are lining back up behind their players, and we're into the draft for game number 2. Well, swap sides, of course. Xiaogu find themselves up a game here in the best of 5 series, but still plenty of games to play as Nidalee, Victor, and Vayne are the 3 bans for LGD. And QG go straight back to where they started. Diana and Yasuo are already banned out.
Kalista or Kog'Maw going to get through?
Probably Kalista should be banned. I'm gonna dangle that one out.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not the analyst, but I think we can make the prediction, and it is going to be Kalista last banned.
So the Vayne ban is always interesting, and this is something that we saw from the last drafting phase, is that particular first pick.
Lulu.
Surprised they didn't ban that one away because of how much of a flex it is for LGD.
Just too scary. I mean, if they think they have to target Godv, they certainly have to take away Kalista, so we might see this develop. Lulu as the first pick for LGD does tell us a lot, but lots of junglers left open this time is the key difference here for Xiaogu.
Yeah, it certainly is. Elise is left up.
Yeah.
We'll see whether Swift wants to play it. I don't even know whether they need to early rotation it.
So it's been banned from him in the first game also.
Yeah.
Worth considering to pick up. Or they could just do what works.
Straight back to what they know. Gragas Maokai.
All right, this is
Kog'Maw
officially dangerous. Yeah. Lulu, Kog'Maw, like, there was a reason that Vayne was doing a little bit more damage than you would usually see out of a Vayne last game.
Yeah.
Because of that help picks that can sit around. And with a Kog'Maw, we've seen it just be so effective. And it's because of the movement speed as well.
It's innate strength of Elise in as well, is that you can heal and disengage if they were to go for that comp. But realistically, as a jungler, you can go anything you would like ever.
Ooh, they might get Braum here as well. There's a lot open actually for LGD, so we'll give them 25 more seconds. We'll see what they want to choose as their next few picks. But they're starting off well. They've got the Lulu. They can already protect the big carry for Imbi if they need to. But they might just have a bigger priority on the old Kog'Maw.
And this is something that we've been really vocal about. And
Wow. All right, there's Kog'Maw, Braum, and Xiaogu insta-lock Jana Siva.
I was going to say, this is the danger of doing it, but Braum is just seeing so much priority in the LPL at the moment.
It is, but I mean, you look at these two teams stylistically, and I feel like Jana's actually the superior support for them. It's just that the wall threat of the Braum in particular is very good against burst champions, so it's ideal to pick up and deny assassins out of Godv. And now Doinb may not want to go for that Cassidy as well, just because Braum's always going to be in the way.
I wonder who the mid lane is going to be, because like you mentioned, LGD do have a lot of flexibility.
Fiora.
Apparently, as far as Imp's current hover goes. And of course, you still have a jungle consideration for TBQ. Wouldn't be too surprised to see Rek'Sai, but Lee Sin certainly up on the list for him here as well. As Imp having a bit of fun with the people at home. There's 10 seconds left for them to choose. Oh my god!
What do you mean,
Fiora Lee Sin.
I said that with confidence.
Well,
that's great. That's really great.
And there's Azir for Doinb.
So just to clarify, we're on 5:15.
Yep.
So Fiora is kind of a good champion at the moment and is...
So this is something that we have been incredibly vocal about. Gangplank is sleeper OP. Fiora is nearly better. Yeah. Because her ultimate, you don't even have to kill someone. You just throw it on the person about to die, and you have a zone where the team can no longer fight you. And the LPL is all about zones. Like, as far as, like, it is a monsoon, but like better.
Yeah, and you know the best part is if you can ever get a Janna with it, all of the
Oh,
monsoons,
the
the
heals.
strength that actually comes out of Fiora is so team-based as well as individually strong because your laning phase, you can use that parry, deny a lot of damage, and then if you ever have the Janna with it, heals are heals everywhere, basically.
I wonder if LGD looked at the last game and said, we didn't have quite enough carries. They're like, Godvi, get on the Lulu, get your control mage, Akon, we need a second threat, you're up. He's like, I can't play Rise. He's like, pick Fiora.
Notice the summoner spells this time around. Believe there is an ignite in
there
the mid
is.
lane.
Godby wants some blood here. Let's go through the matchups though. Acorn busting out Fiora here for the first time in the best of 5 versus V's Maokai once more as TBQ is going to get aggressive as well. Takes Lee Sin into Swift's Gragas.
And, you know, if Atlas can win solo queue games on a champion, it must be pretty good. And I've seen him do it with Fiora at the moment.
Oh, that was Godby's Lulu versus Domi's Azir. A strong last pick for the mid laner from Xiaogu there as well. But it's back on Kog'Maw as TNT's taking the Sivir, and Braum Jan is going to round us out.
And they didn't hesitate either to pick that Sivir Janna.
No,
they
knew.
really wanted this, and that is a dangerous prospect to consider into the Braum and the Kog'Maw. It's a very big protect the Imp comp, and Imp usually makes that happen, but Xiaogu, they're pretty much designed, they're sculpted to run at him.
Well, they've shown they can beat it already. I guess they're going to try and show it off one more time. With that, let's go on to the Rift as LGD are going absolutely bonkers. And here we are as Acorn moves out with another carry champion. He played Rise in the playoffs, was looking good, was able to be a carry threat for his team. And this time he's going to step further, I have to say. We've shifted patches right before the final finishes. And who shows up in game number 2 than Fiora on Acorn, of all people?
Acorn on Fiora, Fiora on Acorn. I don't mind which way it is right now. But the duelist, the grand duelist,
Yes.
makes her way on the Rift with an edgy new haircut as well.
Oh, it's very edgy. Xiaogu, they're the hair team. They'll be very jealous that Fiora's on the enemy team, but
I actually believe that Doimby sported a similar do for the start of the season nearly.
yes.
Not far off, actually. You know what? Speaking of Fiora, it does say to me that LGD aren't going to play their typical lane swap style. They do want to win their lanes.
Has a quick lane jungle follow if you go with things like Q and able to race around the jungle. But I agree, much better 1v1.
Of course, keeping in mind the cooldown is ridiculously high at level 1, even when it does connect. I think it refreshes 40% of its cooldown if it hits, and it's still like an 18-second cooldown at level 1.
Yeah.
How do you know so much about Fiora already?
League of Legends is a great game.
It is a great game here, and it looks
play it
like
too much.
it might be standard lanes. So the intuition is there, as well as the Fiora knowledge out from Rusty. And this is a different look. QG, again, the team we expect to really take advantage of this sort of position, but LGD with a bit more aggression on their side as far as the draft goes might feel confident here.
I like watching QG double jungle, by the way. In this case, they use their supports because you can see that they've given the little sentinel over to their Sivir. Then they're going to go bottom lane and try and shove it out as fast as possible. And that's really hard to do against Braum because he gets 2 free creeps at the start of the game. But if they're able to successfully do it, they will get the earlier level 2.
And again, we talk about Jana being a strong support for both these teams. Level 2 there for Imp. Might give him a bit of initiative here in the lane, but TNT on Sivir, a well-practiced champion and clearly a lane that Xiaogu were happy to take. Not sure if they wanted or expected a 2v2, but they locked it in so fast that you have to think they're more than happy with the situation.
I like how the dynamic changed, though, between the two. PYL took a lot of damage, has the relic shields, but Imp immediately level 2, so the experience was given to the range advantage of the Kog'Maw. Things looking real good in terms of their strengths here for LGD, but Xiaogu playing against the minions are starting to mount a defiance.
Ooh, you can see the shield out there as well onto TNT. Trying to get some of the early damage out, but PYL is going to block some of that off with Braum. As we check in with the top lane, V versus Acorn. Malco versus Fiora.
Doesn't even matter which way you parry, as long as you parry the spell, apparently. Acorn aiming for nothing.
Hanging out, pivoting his mouse there as Swift. Going to get his red buff here as well. And I guess the other thing to look at, not just Acorn's Fiora and how well he can go in what you, I guess, would be a free farm lane, but mid lane as well. control mage on one side, but
we're going to get a gank in the bottom lane. This is bad for QG.
Yeah, TNT's almost already dead, and now TBQ is going to arrive in here. They have to try and turn around. TNT already knows he's done. He's going to try and not give an assist away. He does do so, but it's first blood for Imp.
So TBQ there was really hesitant. You could see that he did not want to kill him, so didn't run up auto or anything. Tried to get an assist off the E, but that kill was going to Imp. No one else was taking it.
He safeguarded to a ward as well, I think, or safeguarded to something, so he didn't have that available to shield for an assist, and then the end result is nothing for him, but he gets the experience, and all things considered, Imp was winning that trade anyway. Yeah,
and I was going to say, QG must have known that he was on the bottom side of the river. Warding a lane brush, especially when you're going, oh, this is a gank in the top lane.
Good bit of CC there. Swift trying to make his way up in the top. Acorn will dash out from under the slow, and Swift got there in time to even burn a flash.
V having no twisted advance, already used it, and no mana to follow up with anything. It would have had to have been a flash from Swift to even look at a potential gank, but the presence has been noted. Acorn does have to respect that, go back and most likely teleport to his lane again.
That was actually a really weird arcane smash from V. He's just made the lane push back into him, although Acorn teleports to a minion anyway and shoves it out hard.
Yeah, reasons.
Yeah, double Doran's there for Acorn and double Doran's actually for V, so they both teleport back in. I could just continue farming as Braum, looking for something here in mid, but TBQ's already made his presence known, so PYL looking to form that 3-man gank.
There's not even enough mana from doing B to actually get something happening, so his over-aggression in positioning right now is a non-factor and should never exist, and this is a lot of time wasted from LGD on the assumption that he's going to play aggressive with Godvy's lack there of health.
And wow, Maple straight on the rift.
Swift's actually going in now. TCT and TNT have roamed their way in. TBQ taking a big burst of damage as they're trying to dive back in for the last few points. Swift's going to come in. Massive flash from TBQ. Gets him to safety.
That was close, but it was also predictable from Swift. And the real issue there was the way they worked around terrain, is that the flash was actually probably not going to hit regardless because he was stuck next to a wall. And they actually get out with their lives pretty big here. TBQ almost doesn't.
Pops his W, he'll be safe. As you do noted, Cogmore got that early first blood, but he's gone for Vampiric Scepter and the Longsword there spawn.
Yeah, so I think he will still go Trinity Force first, and that second Longsword will go towards the phase, but just wants to have some form of sustain. Doesn't have Alistair this time around, yelling and giving him back all that HP. Although, there was a very famous AD carry in the North American LCS that was quite vocal about Blade of the Ruined King Cogmore being much better than Trinity Force first Cogmore. You used to still get both of them, so you end up with the same spike at 2 items, but just depends how you get there.
Well, TNT's also got double Doran, so it's aggression across the rift here.
Oh, double Doran Sivir.
An insane amount of Dorans in this map.
The Vamp Scepter is going to be a lot better than double Dorans in terms of sustain also. And Imp's got that range advantage, so double Dorans is a desperation, I need an item right now style of buy to try and keep up in this slowly declining lane.
And all that control.
It's level 6 to level 4. Yeah. Wow.
Imp's really far ahead.
He's making it known as well, to say the least. He is.
Oh my god, V's dead actually in the top lane. Acorn's going to get the assist, but a roam up from Godby as well, and then Maokai just collapses.
Doesn't even have to use the ultimate out of Godby. Do use the Ignite, however.
This is one of those interesting things, and why you don't want to give LGD the Lulu, is that he can now control that wave. Joinby's got issues with mana without the blue buff on Azir, because he just constantly tries to spam, and to push out a Lulu with a Chalice takes all of your mana bar. You're never going to be able to keep up with a Lulu. And he just goes top lane with TBQ. They find very easy kills.
heavily. So we'll see Akon continue to harass. There's just windows that Fiora are able to do a lot of work, and that's with the E and the Q cooldown.
It's one of those cool champions in regards to target selection on the Q as well, is that the way that it works is like always within range of the Q, even if you dash in an interesting direction. So still fairly easy to actually hit the Q. The question is going to be, who is he hitting the Q on in those fights? It's actually quite easy to take down tanks and Fiora.
Well, we'll check in with some of the other lanes now, as it is actually Blade of the Ruin King first for him. He's got the Cutlass, he's got his recurve bow. Going to be changing up that build. Still has a lead, don't get me wrong. TNT only rocking that pickaxe right now, but again, LGD just off to a better start. It's TBQ's proactive ganks that this time managed to pay off.
Yeah, he didn't even get an assist.
Okay, that first one's probably not on him, but the mid lane, the top lane certainly was.
Yeah, the top lane was definitely a good thing as Dragon started up. If QG are able to grab the first Dragon, definitely a good news story for them, and they must know what's going on here from LGD's lineup. Bottom lane's just backed away completely.
Oh, you can see Doinby trying to keep them out, gets turned into a cupcake! TBQ going to ride his way in, the Dragon's dead, and the barrier will just keep him up.
And you could see Godby was like, he's got a blue buff. Get me it.
Yeah. That was really close as well. Doinby actually getting out with that dash at the last second, as having the flash already down, I believe it was. The smallest amount of time actually keeping him alive from that gank, because there was the attempted kick back into the Lulu, and he almost had that blue buff for himself.
And TBQ was a little bit out of range there. Otherwise, you would have expected the immediate wild growth to go up, which meant that the Q wouldn't have worked.
Swift knows.
He wants the kill. This could be a good counter gank opportunity. Goes the cask in there. TBQ's tanking up the turret. Gets the slow, but he can't quite finish the kill.
That was honestly just for damage. That felt like it was just completely to put down damage and prevent TBQ from getting a gank off in the near future. Because you look at what Xiaogu can do right now, what Swift can do right now, it's not much.
Yeah. Sometimes it's about
really
sending a message.
Yeah, it is.
Certainly is, as Doinby does complete the recall, goes back, gets his mana and health back, and gets himself a Stinger, which looks like Nash's first there, joining in with that Fiendish Codex. Other than that, just checking through, Cinderhawk for both junglers as well, so TBQ is going to be sticking to Cinderhawk Lee Sin. No aggression this time.
And I want to hit on Imp's itemization a little bit. The rate that he is pushing up right now means that he's getting so many auto attacks on the wave, and with lifesteal first, he is just always doing like damage to creeps, and he's sitting at full health. Even if he gets traded against underneath the turret, next wave comes up with that Cutlass, just able to lifesteal back up to full every single time and just continue this long range harass with the W on cooldown.
Yeah, Imp is a lifestyle choice, not a play style. He is just hyper aggression, and the fact that he's gone for that
blade. That's a 2v2, 11-minute lane. Wow.
This is the same as last game as well, as they just command their way through laning phase, and this is where the questions start to raise as to, are they going to be able to turn this laning phase victory into an actual snowball of the game, or will they give Xiaogu a team fight?
I think TNT might be in a bit of trouble there,
I'm really concerned for TNT right now. The reason is he's run out of slots. So he needs 1550 next shop, and that means he can't walk out of base with potions or
he sells
wards, or he sells Adorans this early in a game.
Ooh, Swift flashes out. Doinby's going to go straight in, though. Once TBQ and Godby, the ulti there for both. Doesn't quite get the kill, just has to keep them out.
Signs of miscommunication. Flash as well as Doinby going in at the same time. Not on the same page there.
And that's rare for these two. They are glued together almost.
Best friends.
They are certainly best friends.
Glued together, I think Doinby is the one trying to make sure
Maybe
that happens.
Doinby's stuck on
I'll flash it and
Swift.
I'll save you. It's just like, what are you doing?
I had ulti even.
But the end result is a lot of stuff used that didn't necessarily need to be used, and that's in a position of an even lane. And then we look back bottom. Not very even.
Yeah, these lanes are starting to open up a little in various places. Mid lane's actually a lead there, so Doinby has about 20 CS ahead. It's looking good. But a lead now for Akon. He's got his team out now, so going to start to pressure Maokai a bit more. I'm going to talk about Imp the whole series, I have to feel, but he's already up almost 40 CS or so.
And PYL's doing PYL things right now, where he takes the talent that he catches up in experience very quickly. So he stays in the wings, doesn't actually take experience for himself, and this gives Imp this huge experience advantage. And then when PYL needs levels, he just wanders back into lanes and gets it 10% quicker than you normally would.
Yeah, and it's funny because you already get it so much quicker anyway from the way that experience works in League. Is you catch up quicker if you're behind, based off everyone else around you. So he's always going to catch up in that experience, and it unlocks him to just be anywhere he would like around the map. He's looked for a gank mid once already this game. So things working out well here for LGD, and POL doesn't even need to be bottom.
And the blade is finished now for Imp. He's going to pop his way into the top lane and really pressure V, who's not quite finished that Frozen Heart yet. It'll be nice against both Fiora and the Kog'Maw, but needs to get it done here in Imp. Not interested in messing around, just wants to create some pressure. Even with Dragon up in a minute 40. See if Xiaogu can get Dragon number 2, because right now LGD are the ones 2,000 gold up and with all the tempo.
Good news story is that Doinby's up in CS.
Oh, yeah? He's up in CS, but he's against the control mage, so it's always a big concern as to if he can actually make something happen, though he is a carry himself.
I have more bad news. V's getting dove here. TVQ going to kick him into the wall. PYL's going to complete the chain. Imp's actually taking a few too many hits, but it's PYL that gets the kill.
Hakon teleports up as well.
He really
just
wanted
to be there.
Moral
just to
support.
hold their hands. No, it was really smart, though, from him to actually tank that many tower shots. He always had the heal and flash available if it came down to it, and it allows TBQ to sit there and put down this damage. Of course, Imp was still going to be doing that from his long range. The second the W runs out, he's like, oh, better not tank this anymore, and gets out to safety.
Now Xiaogu trying to defend all this pushing in the top lane, but again, that'll open back up the Dragon. Akon, yep, leaves immediately. Sees 3 members from Xiaogu who are now going to try their hand at counter-pushing top lane.
They've all got weak spots, though. It's got to be so tempting. It's almost like consistent Lee syndrome, where you want to go in. They've got a Lee into boot. So.
The TCG is exposed.
That's a really good response out of QG, however. Being able to shove in a creep wave, get the gold back down to about 1,500.
Definitely was. It's taking what you can, essentially, right? It's, you know, and this is the LPL thing, is trading whenever it's possible. So they make a very positive scenario out of something that wasn't necessarily great. They are sacrificing a lot of this bottom lane where Imp is just going to run circles around V because he has a blade first item against armor stack. So things are going pretty well here for LGD, but Xiaogu makes something happen, and they probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, speaking of trading, Dragon number 1's going to fall into LGD. So Xiaogu give up this Dragon, but they did get the tower to trade that all out and try and get some of that gold back here. LGD going to claim that. And again, slowing down a bit here to the mid game. You feel like LGD started off a lot better here. Not going to fall into the same mistake of letting QG get a team fight they fancy.
This was the one thing we said LGD should look to do in this second game, because this is where they found strength from game 1, the period of time where they slowed it down. The only problem with that was they slowed it down at a gold deficit. So now they've started ahead. They've made the patient moves themselves. It's only going to mean good things for LGD from here. And Xiaogu now with the side with a Gragas and a Janna, and even a Maokai, they're working around zone control. They're the ones that now have to engage themselves, and it's not that easy to do.
And the way they're juggling farm on Imp right now, rotating him down top and bottom whenever the lanes swap, especially because Fiora's got an early CS advantage at this stage of the game, just means that Imp is going to continue to grow that gold lead because they need V to be massive. The problem with Fiora, with Imp being on the map, is that if you don't have a huge primary tank, it's just going to get blown up time and time again.
Wow. TNT going to get all in by Akon. Ground challenge is issued, flashes out, Akon's going to follow in, heals used there as well, there's no help coming just yet, the dash will come back up and Akon gets an easy 1v1.
No escape. There is no escape if you hit the first Q as a Fiora. Well
now fight the top lane, 3v3 under the tower as PYL taking up a little bit of damage, flash ulti there, gets PYL to eat another tower hit, but Imp still safe in the backside, firing away.
They got the summoner spell out of PYL, however, Govi
now finding his own 1v1. Slows up Doinby, he gets the tower, but Doinby has to fight back. Puts up the Sun Turret, tries to push him back into it. But the wild growth is out. Doinby's going to pop the barrier. Massive 1v1 as Cog gets the tower, and Godby is barely alive now. PYL's coming in. Who wants to fight me under the tower? He flashes forward, but he runs out of mana. He's still fighting forward. He's alive for a little bit longer, but he can't make it happen as Swift now getting caught out. TCT gets the kill onto PYL. And Swift still caught up as TBQ and Acorn are fighting in. Fiora's damage off the train right now, and it all ends in carnage with LGD winning up the trade.
But the danger this time is these are those hectic skirmishes, and LGD are getting ahead with a Fiora on the map who's just going to become an unkillable split-pushing threat. Meanwhile, they also take top lane.
So much credit where it's due, though. The way that
Doinby's
so
played
smart
that was exceptional. He took the tower, placed his own tower there, and lived for way too long. Dodged everything, and it was actually the smallest pixel between the Lulu being stuck under the turret and not. And that could have been what changed the fight. One small mechanic that didn't go in their favor. So all things considered, Doinby played that like an absolute mechanical god. Just did not go their way in the end.
There's a reason we call him the genius mid laner, I think. That was genius.
That was just exceptional.
Yeah, that was beautiful. But on the other side of the map, we mentioned that TNT was falling behind. Phage boots 2 with the enchant as well as Blade of the Ruined King to just IE static. Not even static shift.
He wishes. Just an Avarice
blade. That is not a good news story. 2 levels.
Acorn now going to steal the blue away. V's kept up in farm, but Acorn's right now, especially 1v1,
dominating the
doing
map.
too much. Oh, they're going to go in for the blue. Who got it? I think it was Swift. So does keep it on his team, but doesn't get it on the target he wants.
Yeah, Swift picking that one up, of course. Good that they don't get the blue for LGD. Fiora would have loved that one. You can see how desperately he dashed towards it to take that one down, but they do get it for Gragas. In saying that, it's Doinby who's going full damage, is very blue reliant, compared to Godv, who's gone for the Athene's build. Doesn't necessarily need it as desperately as an Azir.
I think this series might be full of different Lulu builds. Because we have another change here for Godv. Sorkshu's Aether Wisp Chalice is his build. So they're going to try and get a blue buff back.
Swift takes another
smite there.
Why not? It was going to be another contested blue buff, so may as well give it
Blank
to your
coming
team.
in.
Oh, now Fiora's going to try and line it up. Swift going to walk back through the wall, gets pushed out there as Acorn can't get back through. Imp is firing from the backline, whimsied up, but he can't quite find the damage. Xiaogu disengaged well.
They tried real hard.
So let's hit on team comps one more time. Xiaogu never have to fight when they don't want to.
Yep.
Gragas, Azir, Janna, as you can see, really good at stopping the fight. But the chase out of LGD this time is the difference. They've got the whimsy. Better yet, they've got the Q out of Fiora, and you can see Acorn can just continue to dive into people.
They definitely can. It's just, again, you touched on this to begin with. It's so hard to actually do against this Xiaogu side. One spell can be used, the Azir ultimate. They've still got the Monsoon, the explosive cast, and nobody was going to die.
Imp. He wants it so bad, but he knows he's safe. Godby's there with the ulti. And every time I see Imp's Kog'Maw being allowed to play this aggressive, I just wonder what happened in the draft, because Imp, this is the way he loves to play.
He even has both summoner spells.
Oh, he tags the Sivir there. Can't believe he didn't go. Just do it.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
They're just going to keep it calm for now, as LGD going to take this outer turret, break open the mid lane, go up in turrets, and create some space here on the map. Drag it up in 20 seconds. Baron up right now. LGD have plenty of buffs to consider, and they're still getting that gold lead, creeping further and further up. About 3,000 gold ahead. Going to look to keep that snowball rolling.
LGD. As you said, snowball rolling. I don't think there's a way for Xiaogu to really want to contest this one. They're running a disengage comp. And ideally, this is the spot where Xiaogu should engage. It's because LGD have to come at them. And that's the strength of their team comp, is they can go in, they can go out, they can reset 27 times before they actually want to commit. But because LGD already feel like they're so far ahead, to actually set up for the dragon is difficult.
Oof, he's actually porting. They might try and fight here. Doinby's on a decent flank. He kicks 2 out there as Acorn and Godby move back. Zonya's pop there. Wild goes on a TBQ. PYL gets a good ulti down. They're going to try and dive in onto him, but TCT flops them back into the fight, but Acorn's already doing too much damage. Swift is going to die here as well. Imp is staying alive for so long, and the front line's going to melt. TCT will get chased down as well. V will barely live. TCT will die, and that's 4-0 to LGD.
And I mentioned the Fiora ultimate, and people keep saying, how are you supposed to ace?
Good snipe from Godby.
How are you supposed to activate it? Throw it on the lowest health member, get the huge reset. Acorn just put 3 half health members back to full health in that fight.
Yeah, it's like you have a Janna, I have a Fiora now, which is essentially a better version except for the displacement out of the Monsoon. He just picked on Doinby in that fight. They made sure that Doinby go down. Godby's in a really intense battle right now.
To steal the red buff.
You thought the last team fight was hard, Rusty. You try and take on this red buff.
That was red wins.
It does for now. Godby will be back. He actually did that with the Aether Wisp spill as well, so he's got a lot of money to spend, and there's that Ludens we were looking for in Game 1.
The build that you're very fond of, Spawn, actually goes for the God V special, is on the control mage with the Ludens Echo, but again, that last fight, Doinby, you mentioned, had the flank, but he wasn't even actually on a flank, he was just out of position. He goes down very quickly, has to force the Zonias out immediately. Didn't have the flash, or he just got it, or just didn't use it, I'm not entirely sure. Couldn't get to safety, and this is where the Fiora ultimate that Spawn mentioned can then be very easily activated and resets the fight for themselves.
Oh, TVQ trying to get Swift. Flash kicks him back there as Imp's going to try and get the kill. Those passive will lock it down. Swift will die, and Imp's going to get his 4th kill of the game.
And look at the difference between Game 1 and 2. That would have taken Imp 5 minutes Game 1 to kill Swift. This time around, however, nice and fed 4-0-4. Able to delete Swift off the map.
And it's causing problems for Xiao Gu, who are trying to defend. We talk about them playing from behind. Might be a little too far behind right now. 7,000 gold down at this current stage. Down a Dragon here as well. And things are only getting worse as Acorn having a fun old time split pushing bottom lane.
And look at the ward coverage on the bottom side of the map for LGD also. The blue buff just spawned, but they had 5 wards placed in advance of this happening. And they can potentially come in and do exactly that.
I like that you thought about, this shows how different we are. You looked at wards, I was like, wow, Acorn's 3,000 gold up. You know how many items that is right now, Rusty? That's nearly the finished Bloodthirster.
Yeah, but he's not going to be the one next to action right now.
I mean, let's hit on Acorn's build, because again, Fiora, champion that we didn't see that much before the rework and haven't seen that much of her since then. Ravenous Hydra Bloodthirster seems pretty standard for an AD carry. We already saw what the ultimate brings to the team fight, but what else is Acorn looking to bring to this side?
So all he wants is enough lifesteal so that when he chases either Doinby or TNT, he sustains through their damage. So the overshield to go into a team fight acts as a little bit of a defensive buffer, but then the ability to use your AD, wow,
and your Essence
Reaver.
Never mind.
That I'm confused
Don't
about.
worry about the Bloodthirster, guys.
Cooldown reduction.
That's good.
Lifesteal.
It's also good.
10%
Damage.
less. Lifesteal, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but like he's already got lifesteal from the Ravenous Hydra.
Maybe it was cheaper. Like he just didn't have the gold. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Just didn't have the gold.
But I'm just going to say it's a good decision.
Really?
Cooldown reduction on Fiora is great.
No, that is good.
It's a way to get damage and cooldown reduction at the same time in a very efficient manner. Though the Bloodthirster gives you the overshield, it gives you the health to sustain through. People, when you chase them down, it's similar to the Gnar that builds damage in that respect. Like a mini Gnar needs to keep up with you. The Fiora is just all about killing them right now to the point where we saw TNT try and live. He wasn't even turning around to auto attack. He was just dying.
Yeah.
Running away.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
As Imp does get the tower in the top lane. 5-2 up now for LGD and towers. As they're looking at a Dragon coming up as well. Xiao Gu are really just trying to fend them off here, but LGD, this is what we expect when we see them play.
Well, this is 60 CS in 2 positions. I don't think anyone expects to be 120 collective CS in top and AD carry positions at 26 minutes into the game. That is monstrous.
It is, and that's the snowball we've seen from this side. We look at the gold values. Everyone is winning by a pretty substantial margin. Imp, probably more than anybody else. But LGD, sure, they can play it safe. They'll play it slow if they need to, but when they are ahead, Imp especially will play up. And this is exactly where you don't want to be as Doinby. Imp's going in. Wow. Goodbye. Oh, he lives. The heal's there as well. TNT's getting thrashed as Imp gets knocked out by Swift. They can't even fight one of them, let alone 5 of them.
That was absurd. The damage he just put down, the barrier is actually what kept Doinby alive. TNT, the knight in shining armor, arrives and gets hit once in the face and instantly regrets his decision.
He had to heal as well. That was, wow.
That was a lot of damage.
And now Acorn's 1v1 in the tank. V gets tower dove, lucky to be alive. LGD going to keep knocking down turrets. And Xiao Gu have very few good options left. TBQ do it.
No, you already safeguarded PYL.
Disappointing.
Decision was made.
Oh, look at him. He's so far forward. He just doesn't care. He knows he's safe. This is the problem when you get Lulu cocked. Everyone is Acorn. Dives in there, pops a repulse. Grand challenges Swift, but he's going to get knocked back out here. QG might have a mistake to capitalize on. Acorn still not dead. Does get the first kill. PYL now going to jump in and save him as Swift is bleeding and will get sniped out by Godv. V's chased down. He'll die next. And Imp's going to keep chasing down. That's 3 dead already. Acorn threw away his life, but LGD will break the front.
That was just
PYL
gross.
Oh my god, he's alive.
We're talking about how aggressive Imp is.
Akon.
Fiora, man.
Look, Fiora
Is this
did a
the
lot.
reality? We're going to have a best of 5 where Fiora has to be banned in a grand final? Is this what you're telling me?
Yes.
Well, it's looking good so far, that's for sure.
He's going for like a max cooldown reduction style of build, has the makings of the next big item for himself, has decided to go multiple routes instead.
So you're going to go Spirit Visage and Frozen Heart and sit on 40% cooldown reduction and be tanky with all the lifesteal in the world and just be able to shred people.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and he had none of that armor beforehand, by the way.
Yeah.
I like that the Spirit Visage change, which happened, what, 3 patches ago? Actually makes Fiora's ultimate even better. That
Makes everything
Yeah.
about Fiora even better. The true healing, essentially, that will come out of that is absurd.
Suck it, Jonna.
Yeah.
DCT's real jealous right now.
Yeah, speaking of absurd, though, he went over that wall and took on 5 members and almost killed 5 of them with just like a Lulu ultimate. I think the only thing that stopped him was the Emperor's Divide.
Yeah, that was.
And
they
a
were dead.
Sonya's. And a lot of panicking out of Xiaogu. As LGD find themselves in a very strong position, to say the least. If it's just Imp or Akon doing it on their own, who knows what they can do as a unit. LGD so far ahead now, 10,000 plus gold ahead. Dragon number 3 is going to roll around, and Baron Buff has been left very lonely all game long, because LGD do not need it.
You know the best part about this is that we were looking at it earlier and I said it's like Lee Syndrome, but even worse.
Yeah, he got it.
And then that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. So it's like Lee Sin and Fiora on the one team. You're expecting unparalleled aggression if a single spell connects. It's pretty much what we saw.
I don't think the first spell connected, actually. I think Akon was like, yep, going in. Oh, TCT caught out. Goodbye. Imp's going to get the kill. The port's coming down now. Is LGD going to keep running in? Doimby gets caught up in the ulti, but he might have actually got the choke down. Launches himself in. Swift ultis them out, but it's not enough as Imp's going to get himself the double. Swift is stunned up. Can Imp find the triple? He's going to look for it as TBQ going to hand it over. Imp gets a triple, and Xiaogu forced back to the fountain.
Yeah, Doimby looked a little bit resigned as he threw his body at 5 members there. QG just not able to get game 2 rolling the same way they got game 1. And you have to say it was the extra patience, picking their spots a little bit better this time around. Not diving in control mage, instead going towards the top lane, picking on the Maokai and building this huge advantage.
He's doing stuff.
Where is Akon?
He's doing
in
stuff
base.
in
Hanging
their
out in the base. Well, Baron Buff is down. He's 1v3 right now. Trying to get away from all of this. He'll dash himself to safety. Ultimate did get popped on V, but that is obnoxious.
I completely agree with the point you were making as well, as Akon thrusts himself at everyone ever from Xiaogu, is the way that they actually played around this game was much more reserved. It was slow, calm, and collected. And this is what does work really well for LGD. And when they don't play like that, when they feel proactive, perhaps it was nerves in game 1. It was playing into the hands of Xiaogu. And now from basically losing laning phase, they've all started to snowball out of control individually, and then they come together as a team with those strengths and just destroy them.
Yeah, now Baroned up and going to head into the top lane. What can you do? There's just so much strength right now on them. And once again, really like the Lee Sin pickup. TBQ plays Lee Sin so well, 2-0 and 11. What a different performance out of the jungler of LGD. Game 1 looked all out of sorts. This game, much more TBQ-esque.
Now LGD going to try to go in.
There it
TBQ
goes.
dives straight on top. As Imp's going to get the first kill onto Jonna. Akon's now going to dive in as TNT has to run. Swift's going to get polymorphed there as he'll just get knocked down. Godby going to get the next kill. And LGD, they get 2. They don't need much more. Doimby going to try and make something happen. He launches back into the enemy team, but he's only going to give himself up another kill as LGD look to take game number 2.
He just dies with style, Doimby.
Godby ulted, so I think the game's over. Qiao do tap the mat, and LGD will equalize in game 2. Now 1-1.
10-0-7, Cogmore.
Not bad.
Pretty good. Pretty good to say the least, but every single individual member of LGD just looked stellar in that second game. The first game was very shaky for them, but they got it all together. They're an experienced side in best of 5s. They've played 11 games coming into this best of 5 series, and now they feel like they've found their stride.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and you have to just point back to how they went about it. This time it was a 2v2 lane. They got the early advantage on Imp with that level 2. Then they punished once again with another 2v2 kill. Imp YL is just such a strong bottom lane. and that opened up the map. They got the turret really early, able to rotate that into the top lane. Godby this time was like, okay, control mage is really hard to kill. I'm just going to go to other lanes and help my team kill the other people on the map.
And I think junglers was the other big story there, because Swift, you see him on your screen. So his game 1 Gragas looks amazing, and all of a sudden we get a very similar jungle matchup, and TBQ's just doing that much more work this time around.
Yeah, so it was a proactive style again from TBQ, but the way that it was working is that Lee Sin just does so much more damage that people were dying before Swift could actually get there and make that counter gank and actually turn things into his team's favor. And just that small snowball of that laning phase, some aggression from TBQ, and Imp just performing like a freak. They managed to get the entire game almost off the back of that.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate my point from game 1. Imp against a 4-1 Vayne was still 70 CS in the lead. This time around, TNT didn't have the kills. And he still was able to position relatively well in team fights, but when you just don't have the gold, especially he went like pickaxe, Avarice Blade, boots. Yeah. He was just not up to the start that he was looking for, and that game was just all LGD.
I think so as well. Imp's been playing phenomenally all throughout the playoffs. That's not changing here, even in the game that they lost there.
And I think the biggest thing they have to consider about this is they gave them Lulu and then gave them Kog'Maw on that silver platter. They didn't pick that for themselves. They confidence picked a Janna and a Sivir immediately after.
Yep.
But they gave LGD what they wanted and then some.
Yeah, and the way PYL actually played the Braum in that lane meant that Ricochet wasn't hitting more than 2 things before he was behind the next creep with the Unbreakable, and it just stopped the lane push, so they couldn't even shove the lane out and look to get aggressive elsewhere on the map. It was just always in their turret. Imp was just bullying them around.
He really was there. Plenty of problems for Xiaogu, but a great play game from LGD. Let's get a little bit more as we go back out into the war, and this time it's Atlas and Frosker.
Thank you so much, guys. And a great set. I'm not Atlas.
Hi, Atlas.
Yeah, I know. Oh, well. Anyways, a great set from LGD with that game, really bringing it to Xiaogu in game number 2, taking the eventual win, and it was awfully unexpected. We saw something that kind of threw us for a loop.
Yeah, it may have been in the top lane because Acorn decided that he wanted to play or find, I guess, a worthy opponent and insta-locked the Fiora. Now, naturally, because of how draft phase worked, there was a high priority on Lulu from blue side, and then second rotation from Xiaogu was actually Maokai and Gragas. So again, Xiaogu, they play Maokai a lot, taking that high priority, kind of a disrespect to LGE, because you knew as soon as we saw the Lulu priority pick that LGE were going to look down the line and pick up that Kog'Maw. So Acorn being able to find the counter pick and bring out the first, this is the first time that we've seen a Fiora since the patch?
Yeah, competitively. And we actually do have a replay ready for you guys where we get to see some pretty exciting Fiora action. I mean, it looks fantastic. Acorn, he's been waiting in this bush for the past 30 seconds. He's on the hunt.
First of all, I want to kind of explain how Fiora works. So Fiora's Q is going to, let's start with the passive. The passive is a true percentile true damage passive, and it applies proc. So what you're going to see is around Sivir, you'll see these 2 or these 4 little
rings, I guess?
Directional arrows, and these are just for murder purposes. And the idea is that Fiora's Q then is a dash, so to help her reposition to hit the directional arrow on which side they proc on the champion. And then she gets a W, which reflects damage. So if they throw any sort of ability or any immobilizing CC, it then also upgrades that CC. So if you hit Fiora with her W up with a Dark Binding, it upgrades the CC if she counters it to a stun, which is pretty ridiculous in itself. Then the E gives you on-hit effects, but then the second auto attack after the E is a 100% guaranteed crit with bonus damage applied to it.
It's pretty powerful, and we're going to take a look at TNT trying to escape from this because you can see right now he's dashing forward. Acorn has just stepped out of the bush.
Yeah, okay, so we can go ahead and roll the clip. So once he gets a hold of TNT, he procs his ultimate, which is why you see all 4 rings there. Or excuse me, all 8 rings. Acorn is then going to flash on top of him. Now, he needs to kill the opponent or to proc every single one of those rings if he wants the actual ultimate to drop down the healing base right there. Doesn't need it. He just kills everyone. But this play actually continues. This one goes on for a long time.
It's an intense team fight. We saw the assassination in bottom. Now we're going to get some action in the top lane.
But before we roll this one, I just want to kind of underline the difference in LGD that we see. So last game we saw LGD initiate a lane swap because we said, okay, they're going to try to hide TBQ because Swift versus TBQ is probably the most uneven matchup in terms of just across the board. This time around, LGD are like, okay, 1v1 against Xiaogu, let's actually just take it to them and see if we can get ahead so we don't fall behind or we're not even in gold when it comes to these massive 5v5. So taking the Fiora pick like that, taking it to the 1v1 and beating Xiaogu, definitely kind of a game changer. But let's go back to this now team fight in the top lane. And the big guy that I want you to watch is actually PYL because, what is that, V? No, TCT. TCT makes a crazy play here. So we go ahead and roll it. So TCT is going to flash forward, and he's going to pop PYL back into the tower. PYL has a great, or excuse me, TBQ has a great safeguard, and PYL flashes out to safety. But then from here, they just get pretty crazy in the mid lane.
Yeah, once again, it was all about winning lanes for LGD, and this play exemplifies that the most. Action in the bottom, action in the top lane, and now action in the mid lane.
What to say before this play? Well, Doinby's going to miss his Azir sec, or what do we call it? The Shurima shuffle?
Yeah, the Azir slide.
The Azir slide. The Tokyo drift. He whiffs it on Godv, but this turns into a crazy 1v1 that then gets the rest of the team introduced. So we go ahead and roll this one. Oh, here we go. So Doinby, Godv takes down the tower, which Doinby then immediately procs his passive on. There's the whiffed Azir ultimate, but Doinby using the barrier and his tower almost 1v1 outplays Godv. But it's okay because PYL's here to save the day. Never mind, PYL doesn't like that. TBQ walks in, misses the Q. Doinby then slides to the side, doesn't have the knockup because we're 5.15, so TBQ does eventually find the kill. And then TCT, the hero from top lane, runs all the way down to mid lane and helps pick out something from that team fight. But meanwhile, Fiora.
Yeah, she did use her flash to get over there and pick up that extra kill, but that Fiora was so much fun to watch. So much damage. Ravenous, Hydra, Essence Reaver.
Yeah. Let's talk about itemization for Fiora. So obviously picking up the Ravenous Hydra makes sense because Fiora doesn't have a lot of natural wave clear built into her kit. So by itemizing the Ravenous Hydra, you shore up that weakness, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. The Essence Reaver was a little bit curious. I think Rusty did a great job explaining that one on the cast. We were kind of, debating in between in the war room, is he going to go for a Bloodthirster and look to make himself just more tanky to have that shield to synergize with his ultimate when it does drop in a team fight, or possibly look for a Blade of the Ruined King so he could chase someone down and look for the 1v1. But instead, went for the Essence Reaver.
Yeah, so we actually have another team fight ready for you. And again, it's the Fiora show. Can she pull off the ultimate this time? And we'll go ahead and bring the replay up on screen in just a moment. But it was Acorn all over the place. You can already see him on the side over here.
And again, just to underline what Fiora's ultimate does, you want to place it on a very low health target because once you kill the target when the ultimate's procced onto them, it drops a circle of health regen and just immediate power for your team. And that's really what saves the day for this team fight for LGD. So we can go ahead, start it rolling. I believe it goes down on Doinby after he comes out of the Zanya's Hourglass. Yep, there we go. So the ultimate has now been procced on Azir. Once he's dead, you see this giant ring. Look at the health regen that LGD are sustaining because of this Fiora ultimate being procced down. And that's really the trick from it. After all of that said, LG regroup their resources, they get all healed up, and they just mow through the dragon fight. Acorn actually chasing that one down again with a flash.
Yes, so much mobility on that Fiora. The fact that she's doing so much damage, Godby cleaning it up with the ace. LGD, they looked like a completely different team this game. As you mentioned, they came in with a set strategy and executed perfectly.
But again, I just want to say that I also think it was definitely disrespectful from Xiaogu to the draft phase. Again, you saw that first priority Lulu pick. You know that it's going to synergize with the Kog'Maw. So you would expect, like LGD did in the first game against Xiaogu, to second rotate the Kog'Maw to deny it away from the enemy team. Instead, prioritizing the Maokai, prioritizing Swift's Gragas, which Swift has had a fantastic performance on Gragas in both these games so far, but it opened up that Kog'Maw pickup, and Imp is just a monster on that champion.
Yeah, an absolute titan. We've got another team fight ready for you folks. Again, LGD are running away with the game. 11,000 gold, 27 minutes in, 11 kills ahead. This is where Acorn tries to get a little too fancy.
I have to laugh because as I pull it up, I'm like, which replay is it? Oh, it's the 1v5 replay. Okay, so yeah, we can go roll this clip. Acorn's going to come over the wall. He's going to try to immediately assassinate Doinby so he can proc his ultimate. His ultimate, I think, might have been a misclick onto Swift, but right now he's having an inability to proc all of the passives because he can't get around Doinby's wall. But just look at how long this Fiora survived 1v5 to allow the rest of LGD to come in, dive the tower, wait for the creep wave, and try to clean up the back half of this fight, which just goes to speak to LGD's massive goal discrepancy at that point.
Yeah, some serious trouble for Xiaogu in this set. And you've got to wonder, how do they deal with this coming into the next game? I mean, do you waste a ban on Fiora, a champion who's been played competitively once?
No, I don't think you do, although they may have to look for it. Curious if they will go that direction, but I think we actually have one more replay.
Yeah, we've got that last replay ready for you folks. This is the end. It is 32 minutes in, 5 minutes later, and LGD look to push to victory.
And TBQ just goes nuts on his Lee Sin. From there, the tower dive, they walk past the tower, so they're making sure that they're not fighting this engagement underneath the tower. They've got the Baron buff. They have a massive gold lead. That's over 10k, and at this point, LG are just styling on Xiaogu. But again, it's the change of mentality of, you know, we're not going to lane swap. We're going to try to beat them 1v1, make sure that we actually get the surplus gold lead so that when we do 5v5 against Xiaogu, because you notice all those early fights, they were skirmishes, as opposed to a big, full frontal 5v5.
Well, we'll see if they can bring it back in the next set as we toss it back to the casters to get us into game number 3.